Hi, good day everyone! Sa videong ito, pag-uusapan natin kung paano mag-solve ng quadratic equation using Dr. Po-shen Law's method. Yes, if you already know how to solve quadratic equation, you can solve this quadratic equation x squared plus 3x minus 4 using factoring, completing the square, or using the quadratic formula. Okay, so ganito yung method na naisip ni Dr. Po-shen Law or ganito niya tinignan yung quadratic equation nung naisip niya. So for this quadratic equation, later natin bibigay yung general method kung paano siya. So, let's say you have the roots R1 and R2, yun yung solution. So, let R1 and R2 be the roots. You can see, ang coefficient ni x squared is 1. So, if you know the roots, ang magiging itsura ng equation mo is x minus R1, x minus R2. Dapat maging the same siya as x squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay, so ito yung roots, yun yung hinahanap natin, R1 and R2. So, if you try to expand this one using the FOIL method, ang makukuha natin is multiply the first terms, x squared, tapos yung inner outer, you get negative R1x, negative R2x. If you add that, at factor out yung x, you can get negative R1 plus R2x. And then the product of the last terms are negative, negative, magiging plus, tas R1, R2. Tas equal doon sa right-hand side. Dapat mag-equal yung dalawang yan. So kung equal silang dalawa, dapat itong thing na to is 3. Or R1 plus R2 is negative 3. So yung sum ng roots mo is negative 3. And yung ito naman, R1, R2, which is the product of R1 and R2, must equal negative 4 or yung constant term. Okay, so parang nangyari, to get the sum of the roots of this quadratic equation, minultiply mo to by negative 1. Ito naman yung product niya. Okay, so dito naisip ni Dr. Po-shen Law na kung meron kang sum ng dalawang numbers, let's say nasa number line na lang sila, if you add them, tapos kinuha mo yung average nila, anong mangyayari? Let's say this is R1 and this is R2. If you get the average of two numbers, ang makukuha mo is yung number na nasa gitna nila. So in this case, this is R1 plus R2 divided by 2. Ang gusto natin si R1 and R2 But, from the average na makukuha natin dun sa sum ng roots, equidistant yung dalawang roots natin. So, ibig sabihin, let's say, may distansya silang D doon sa dalawa mong roots. So, yung hinahanap na natin na roots dito are, ang kailangan mo muna, R1 plus R2 divided by 2. You can divide both sides of this by 2. So, yung average ng roots, average of roots, is negative 3 over 2. So, yung actual roots na hinahanap natin are negative 3 over 2. Ito yun, negative 3 over 2 minus D. Tapos yung isa naman, negative 3 over 2 plus D. Ito yung negative 3 over 2 plus D. Tapos, kailangan mo na lang ma-solve yung D. Pag na-solve mo na yung D, alam mo na yung roots. Doon natin gagamitin yung product na negative 4. So, yung product ng roots are product nitong dalawa. Which is a difference of 2 squares lang yun, diba? Kaya madali na yang i-times. Saan equal ang product ng roots natin? Negative 4. Okay. Tapos dito na tayo magtuon ng pansin. Pag na-solve natin yung D, plug in na lang doon, yun na yung hinahanap nating roots. So, difference of 2 square, meron tayong 9/4 kasi ang square ng negative magiging positive. Square ng 3 is 9, square ng 2 is 4. Minus D square, you get negative 4. And then, you solve for D. So, 9/4 plus 4. Nilipat ko yung negative 4 sa left. Lilipat ko si D square sa kanan. So, you get 9 plus 16, right? 16, okay. So, D square, angat natin na onte, equal to 25/4. And then, D is equal to plus minus, square root no, no? Or plus minus 5/2. Okay? It doesn't matter naman kung positive or negative yung pipiliin mo. But for simplicity reasons, pwede natin kunin yung positive na lang. So, yung roots na hinahanap natin are, ano daw yung nakalagay dito? Negative 3/2 minus D, negative 3/2 plus D. So, take na lang natin yung D equal to 5/2. So, meron tayo negative 3/2 minus 5/2 and negative 3/2 plus 5/2. Or, pag sinimplify natin, we get negative 8/2. Yung isa naman, 2/2 or negative 4 and 1. So, ito yung dalawang roots na hinahanap natin. Okay, so parang humaba siya, no? Parang humaba lang siya kasi dahil dito sa thing na to. Pero kapag in-apply nyo na talaga siya, which is yung gagawin natin mamaya, parang mas dadali yung buhay natin. So ito lang yung important observations na ginawa natin. Kinuha natin yung average ng roots, which is you divide the coefficient of x by negative 2. Tapos ang magiging roots mo na are yung average minus d, average plus d. Yun yung i-compute natin. So kapag meron ka ng ito, expression for the roots, you multiply them equal to the constant term. And then pag na-solve si d, pwedeng i-take na yung di yung positive. At i-plug in ulit dito. At kung ano yung makuha doon, sila yung roots mo. So ito yung general way of doing it. So to solve for x squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, as you can observe, nilagyan ko ng highlight yung x squared. Bakit? Kailangan ng coefficient ng x squared ay 1. Paano kung yung coefficient ng x squared mo is hindi 1? So for example, you have 3x squared plus 2x minus 1 equal to 0. What you can do is divide muna everything by 3. So magkakaroon ka na x squared plus 2/3 x minus 1/3 is 0. So para x squared na lang yung nandito. Hindi na siya 3x squared. Para 1 yung coefficient ni x squared na lang. And then this is b. Ito na yung c mo. Okay? And then after that, you compute for the average of the roots. Yung average is a coefficient of x divided by negative 2 or negative b/2. Tapos pag nakuha mo na yung average ng roots, yung actual roots mo, yung hinahanap mo are negative b/2 minus d and negative b/2 plus d. So average minus d, average plus d. Yung d na lang isosolve natin. To solve for d, multiply this 2, which is this, equal to the constant term. Try natin i-apply yan dun sa next example natin. We have 3x squared plus 9x plus 1 equal to 0. And as you can observe, the coefficient of x squared is not 1. So, ang unang gagawin, kailangan 1 muna yung coefficient nito. So, divide everything by 3. So, magkakaroon tayo ng x squared plus 3x plus 1/3 equal to 0. And then yung next thing, you compute for the average of the roots. Ano yung average ng roots? You divide this by negative 2. So you get negative 3/2. So yung actual roots na kinocompute mo are, ano yun? Pag dinrawing natin, this is negative 3/2 d. Ito yun, no? So negative 3/2 minus d, negative 3/2 plus d. And to solve for d, ita times ito. So, negative 3/2 minus d, negative 3/2 plus d, equal to yung constant term, yung c. And then, wala, madali mo na itong isosolve kasi ito ay difference of 2 squares. Square, magkakaroon ka ng 9/4 minus d square is 1/3. Tapos, compute for d square na lang. So, 9/4 minus 1/3 is, ano bang lalabas dito? D square. You get 27 minus 4/12. Kaya naman, meron tayong d square is 23/12 or d plus minus square root, which is plus minus square root ng 23 over, this is 2 square root of 3, no? Kasi 12 is 3 times 4. Pag in-square root mo, lalabas yung 2. Pwede mo naman i-rationalize yan. Sige, kung gusto nyo nag-rationalize. So, d is plus minus square root ng 69 over 3 times 2, 6. Yan na yung d natin. Tapos sabi natin, pwede natin na i-take yung d positive. So, ano na yung roots natin? So, balik tayo dito. So, ang roots natin are, ito, i-plug in doon. So, yung d equal to positive na lang yung kunin natin. Kahit ano naman dyan will do. So, negative 3/2 minus square root ng 69/6 yung isa. Negative 3/2 plus square root of 69/6. So, gawin na lang same fraction kung gusto ninyo. Ito na multiply by 3, no? So, multiply by 3 rin yun. Negative 9 minus square root ng 69. Ito naman, negative 9 plus square root of 69. So, ito yung dalawang roots na kinocompute natin. And as you can observe, hindi tayo gumamit ng quadratic formula, hindi tayo gumamit ng completing the square, hindi tayo gumamit ng factoring. Okay? So, mag-work din kaya to kapag repeating yung roots mo. Try natin dun sa next example. We are happy kasi 1 na yung coefficient ni x squared. So, we compute for the average of roots. So, paano yun? You divide this by negative 2. Divide this by negative 2, you get 2. Okay? Tapos, yung roots mo na are 2 minus d, 2 plus d. Pag na-compute mo si d, yun na yun. At ano yung product? 2 minus d, 2 plus d, which is, ito, yung constant term, 4. Meron tayong 4 minus d square equal to 4. Negative d square equal to 0, or d square is 0, or d is 0. So, ang roots mo na are 2 minus 0 and 2 plus 0, or 2 and 2. Dalawang 2 ang roots natin. So, nakaka-capture niya pa rin yun. Kahit repeating yung roots mo. Okay, so yung next question, nakaka-capture kaya nung method na to kapag meron kang non-real roots or yung may mga imaginary, ganyan. Let's try this example. So, unang i-observe, 1 yan. So, ang average ng roots, so, anong gagawin sa coefficient ni x? You divide that by negative 2. So, magiging 2 na lang siya. So, yung magiging roots mo are 2 minus d, 2 plus d, yung dalawang yan. And the product of roots, 2 minus d times 2 plus d, which is yung constant term. So, meron tayong 4 minus d square equal to 7. Negative d square is 7 minus 4. Negative d square is 3, or d square is negative 3. So, d is plus minus square root of negative 3. So, meron kang square root ng negative. You can get rid of the negative sign inside, pero maglalagay ka ng I dun sa labas. So, pwede mong i-take yung positive or negative, it doesn't matter. So, yung actual roots na hinahanap mo are 2 minus square root ng 3i, tsaka 2 plus square root ng 3i. Okay, so parang pwede mong isipin na kapag ang roots mo are non-real, yung roots mo are nasa complex plane, right? Pero dahil real ang coefficients ng quadratic equation mo, yung roots, they come in complex pairs. So if this is R1, oops, i-anuhin natin. Mirror reflection lang yung isa about the x-axis. Magiging ganun lang yun. Tapos yung average nila, ito. Ito si R1 plus R2 divided by 2. Tapos ito na iniisip mong D. Parang ayan, mag-a-adjust ka vertically. Yun yung silbi ng I. Ibig sabihin pa vertical yung adjustment ng square root of 3. Okay? And that's it for Quadratic Equations by Dr. Po-Shen. Sana natutunan ninyo itong method at magamit nyo siya in your studies. Goodbye and take care!